Africa and has been colonized by the Chinese. The industrial space has been colonized by the Chinese. So the key thing is this, that unless something has to be done right now. I spent 8 years, as 5 of which only reading, and the other 3 years I was on Africa in government. I spent 10 months in Zambia. I spent 4 months in Ghana. I couldn't get to see the president or anybody at the top there. The whole system is contained. I couldn't. So we are in a paradigm that doesn't work. We need to go into a new paradigm and structure a new Africa and structure a pinnacle of organization. Because at the African Union, what have you got? There's this impression that the whole nation is talking about this Agenda 2063. When you look at it, it's just aspirations. It is not a vision. There's no means to fulfill it. So the youth of Africa really need to conceptualize and think and say, where do we start? How does the new leadership emerge? You know, that's why the Riot Act, the manual that I wrote, the African Master Reset, is a letter written to the youth to realize that unless you bring in a revolutionary thinking, revolutionary, I don't mean revolt, I mean radical, drastic transformation. Unless you have that and start at the leadership, then you can now talk about having a roadmap. In Africa, sense of agency, alignment of 1 million organizations that we have, a direction, a structure, institutional framework. If you don't have an institutional framework, how are you going to do it? If you don't have structure of all these ideas that we have, science and technology, what's in the diaspora, what's on the continent, what ideas, what business are already there, what engagements are there with the with the foreign nations and so forth. How do we strategize to maximize, the output and fast track ourselves, into this new industrial revolution that is coming? Because we're missing the key thing we are missing in Africa is that every technology, leaves wealth. Eric, all his inventions are making money for somebody else. There could be billions in Africa, like somebody said, it could have, $50 billion, but our, everybody else is rushing, is going somewhere, but we have not developed a philosophy and a mindset to do it. I want to give you an example. Now, when we talk, if you put economists and if you put technical people, if you put organizers, finance, and so forth in Africa on the table, right? They're going to talk about what is there, right? They're going to talk about what's happening. Each person is talking about their own thing. But the transformational process is a key thing missing. Now, if we get at the table to talk about a transformational process, the idea is like, okay, what is our industrial model going to be, right? There's so many brands, there's so many partnerships that are out there, right? There are millions of them. Let's just talk of a simple thing, trucks, right? Let's talk maybe of fast trains. We're not going to start building our own. We have to form some kind of a partnership. Now, what are we going to do? Have a brand architecture. In other words, a list of the brands in various areas that we want to pursue. Then we do it. And we can only be aware of that if we say, okay, what industrial model in general are we going to structure for ourselves, right? What commercial models, right? What social models? What finance model of it together? Unless we do that, because we are not planned, we're not organized, the other nations are coming. Africa is 80% colonized. The industrial place is 89%. In fact, I would say 90% colonized today. So and then in order to do all that in Africa, you have to throw some of those economic concept that we have. In fact, the first thing we're going to do is take all the economists, lock them up somewhere for a year, for us to understand that transformation does not need an economist. You know, when you go in, when a new government comes, they should take all the economists away so that you are talking, you stay, you know, philosophical, you stay innovation, creative and innovation, you stay organic. Without the organic aspects, there's no, you can't think of the future. So now, a key thing in Africa, if we're going to do this, a key thing in our concept is this new thing that people are talking about, the mission economy. Now, the idea of the mission economy we break down the structure, the architecture of the economy and say there must be a communal aspect of it. And that communal aspect, that the major backbone industries must have a strong government input so that the government puts a lot of money into research, and that research will then from there will rise the different technologies that are driven by that, for space, for security, for a lot of these major areas, for communication, where people like Eric and others can then benefit from that research to put their programs together. A mission economy will say, okay, our African people don't have finance. What are we going to do? How are we going to structure an African finance that has a very strong bias for research, that's got a very strong bias for structure, and to make sure that our people have got no collateral? How are we going to get that financed? We can say, hey, let's get finance. How are you going to finance? They've got no collateral. So we have to come with new ideas that will drive Africa. So a strong mission economy. I mean, the example is that people talk about the iPhone and the Siri and all these things. In Africa, even the internet, it was these were developed and funded by the American government. The Chinese are doing that, and I think that there is need for us to ponder and think that we need a sense of agency to start a pinnacle of organization where we can structure a program and an institutional framework that's, what system is going to run this in Africa? What organizations, the structure, the power, the authority, the politics, and the execution, everything, what kind of structure will run it? It's very complex. You see, so we have that, and then we have this program structure, the program design, that all these things that people are talking about under the Rapid Africa Plan that are designed, it's easy. We can connect with universities, right? They've already been paid. You don't have to pay for these cars, but big offices and so forth. But you can only come there when you said, this is where we want to go, this is what we want to do, this is our main mission, this is our structure. And then the technology is an arm of it. So I hope that that can help, because for the sake of time,
thank you so much.
I'd like to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's Dr. Wumi. Please check if she's around. She probably has a few things to say. Just please, thank you.
I don't know what you just said. Anyway, I can't hear you clearly. Who just said something? Okay, I think your network is bad. Thank you so much, Dr. Hannington. That was really so insightful.
I asked if there's Dr.
Please, can you mute yourself? And
I don't see him. I don't see. Is it a he or a here? I don't see him.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Hannington. That was really insightful, and you really spit fire, and I could also relate to that. Just same thing with what Mr. Eric said about the mindset. I think Africa needs to start from the mindset. We need to have a mindset of strategizing before action. And that being said, I have a question for you about something you just said. change of mindset actually is not something we just start. We need to go to the grassroots. And talking about that is not just in university level. I think we need to incorporate that into our education system, start catching them young. So what do you think is the best thing or the best way to empower effective learning of STEM education for ordinary Africans, at least to start from young age to have that mindset, innovative mindset, and a kind of mindset of real change and not just mindset of numbers?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a great question because I'm glad that you asked that question because, um, when you are in these WhatsApp groups, you hear people say, Africa, wake up, Africa, wake up. We need to change our mindset. We need to change our mindset. And, I can say this, for a fact that we are starting at the wrong place. There is no nation in the world, it doesn't exist, and I think it doesn't exist in any other planet as well, where the whole people have to be conscientized before we can move forward. You see, the key thing that we're missing is the science of transformation. You see, we have to look from the top, where we need a transformational leader, somebody that God gives a complete, very clear picture of what Africa is going to be. And then that leader will find a team of people and they clarify the vision and then they decide what they're going to do. Then education is an element of it. See, when you look at the African culture, is where we have a problem because our thinking space has been cut off because everything has been planned for us and our culture is broken. Culture is the container of information, including the technologies, the advancing principles and the value systems. It's a container of that. And so now we are missing the point that transformation is going to come from a few people. We need to find out who is the transformational leader in Africa and start and have a roadmap. Under that roadmap, we need a program design. Under that program design, we have the cultural element and we have all the other elements that are there, education, social advancement, the standard and the quality of life that we want to look at. In Africa, we need to have a leadership that has the mindset that we call the excellence of existence. In other words, we see in the future our people having an excellent life. That's where it starts. So people, they don't know what it is that they're looking for. They don't know what it looks like, but when they see it, they will know in Africa. And so it doesn't need to be. It doesn't come from the bottom. It comes from the top. What we're needing in Africa is to have a plan for us to sit down together. I spent 2 years, like I said, went to Ghana. I couldn't get to the system. The secretary to the president threw it away, said, no, we can't do that, right? I went to Zambia. Zambia had a team there. We couldn't get to the president. In Malawi, I spent 2 months. I couldn't get the president. The vice president of a everybody in here understand that the Africa Union, there's nothing happening there. We have to create a new transformational structure to drive Africa forward. And it starts from the top. Every answer, what I call a pinnacle of organization. So there's no upgrading of a mindset from the bottom to go. It's a process that takes 30 years to accomplish. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay, I would love to I don't know who's interrupting me. I would love to give the audience the floor. If you have your question, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay. But if you don't have, I will just go straight to the chat box. Anybody have a question?
I have a question.
I can saw Timmy, you wrote a whole note. If you can unmute yourself and ask your question, else I might read out your question for the speaker.
Yes, I think I have a last question. Sorry, wait, am I
No,
going?
no, 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 no. Sorry, Ria. I would love to give the audience the floor now.
Okay.
Or I'll pick a question from the chat box first, please, if you
Okay,
don't mind.
no,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
No, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. Hello.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Thanks. Well, my question goes to Mr. Masaba and everyone as well. My name is Edmond. So right now I'm in Yiwu City in China here. So first of all, I have two questions. So before the question, I clearly heard what Mr. Masaba said and the last speaker. So I just want to throw in some words first. When I go to the normal app store, for example, iOS and Google Play Store, so I see a lot of applications there and programs. So that means that all those app developers like myself and other guys, WeChat, WhatsApp, Tencent, other stuff. So all their programs are being embedded into these app stores. So for example, now in China, China have their own cloud, which hosts other apps. So which means that whenever you want to open an app of iOS, for example, you are going to subject it to China's cloud. Although iOS is for US, like the main cloud is in the US, but China has partitioned that part. So my question is, all these developers, technologies, companies, every single app that is on the China cloud, they are monetizing it and they are cashing out very, very, very high on high amount. For example, now Nigeria or West Africa or Africa in general, when you download any app in Africa, you can download it. It's accessible. So which means Google, Instagram, Facebook, all these big companies in terms of wherever they do, the African people in particular are using this gadget like this, their data stuff every single time. And from my calculation, Nigeria alone has about, if I'm not mistaken, about 40 to 50 million users of Facebook alone, active users. What about Instagram? What about Facebook? So just imagine, so if you run the calculations very well, over $1 million is being consumed data-wise, Nigeria alone, not to talk of Africa. So my question to Mr. Masaba is quite long. Why don't Africa or a particular country in Africa, let's say Nigeria, because I'm Nigerian, why don't we put a partition, like why don't Africa have their cloud such that every other applications, every other website, technological team, they must subject themselves to that cloud so that the African continent can be taxing those applications first, because those are revenues. Those are huge revenues. Because now in China,
okay, you have just few seconds to round up your question, please.
Okay, sure. So, Mr. Masaba, what do we need to do? Why don't the African continent create their own cloud so that they can monetize every single technological things coming in? I think that's the real smartness there. Because if you check, we have Google Drive, Google Documents, Google Play, all those lot of packages. Those are billions of dollars in revenues every year. So, Mr. Masaba, I hope you can clearly explain that part on how we can do such. Thanks.
Yep. What I would say is, firstly, if there are two ISPs, one is very large, one is very small, it actually hurts the smaller ISP to partition itself away from the bigger ISP. Until Africa's got more intellectual and strategic depth in the stuff we've created, that would be suicide. We'd cut ourselves off and it wouldn't work. China waited until it had got near parity before it started segmenting and doing its own thing. Russia has always been really far ahead in military technology, for example, and they can do things with China to catch up with the West, which they will. That's what they're doing with their mere payment system, which they've taken at least 8 years probably longer bringing it up. So ultimately, in the medium to long term, absolutely, that's something that Africa should start to do in order to not exactly protect markets, but to foment growth amongst intellectuals there. However, right now, that would be a self-defeating step. I think if you can get more people starting to develop things in Africa for African problems rather than trying to go and work for the West. I mean, I grew up in the West. I spent my first 2 years in Africa, and have never been back. But fundamentally, I see that as a huge opportunity, ripe for growth. So I think it's not actually a good idea to start to segment. That would actually be detrimental to Africa's development. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Eric. So I have your question in the chat box. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
Go on. We can hear you. Go on.
You, in addition to what Eric has said, it's still within the same realm as precisely what Dr. Hannington has mentioned. We need a system that understands what is missing and defines how to ensure that what is missing can be retrieved or created within a time frame. So, talking about an architecture, a model with which Africa must undertake, and establish growth. This is very important. And truth be told, a lot of us are somewhere at the center, but we need a leadership that can, conceptualize this model by having the right set of people, who can help drive this. And this is where I would say the state of the Africa diaspora, which I'm a member of the government. It's a new government. We've basically been around for not more than 4 years. And the vision of the Prime Minister is precisely, to be able to tap into the kinds of things that are being discussed here, from what Dr. Hannington is saying, from, the points of view of Dr. Alexander, Eric Masaba. It's to be able to drive an Africa that is extremely aware, one that has been, if I would say, propaganda, like weaponized, a weaponized African mind that is awake, one that understands competitiveness, one that understands that we need to structure those possibilities that are within our grasp by assembling elements all in an organizational manner, where we can gradually tap into what is out there, reverse engineer it for our own use, and then gradually over time competitively grow ourselves, you understand my dear, to be able to hold our own, forte. This is possibly the only way, and that is the reason why this assembly and this particular discourse is of extreme importance. In fact, when it is put together, it would be to share this with certain key people in privileged positions across Africa, and then lobby in order to be able to crystallize, to ensure that this becomes a framework for a government to undertake. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much,
Ambassador. If I may be allowed to come in for a second, just to accentuate what has been said. I don't know. I'd like us Africans, like maybe members, brothers and sisters that are here, to stand on your head, and just begin to see how it works, standing on your head. In other words, then we can forget everything else. You see, how do you do something without organization? How do you do something without leadership? Now, anybody who has run any organization, but I think it's not as simple as that, because a lot of nations, organizations, highly educated people, master's degrees, PhDs, they fail in times of crisis to transform. Now, I want to give you a very simple example. Like any of your countries, right? And you look at their development plan today, and I'd like you to to apply this formula to see whether it's going to succeed or not. Number one, does it have the means, right? They have a vision. It's a bridge that takes them there. And that bridge is supported by 3 pillars. Number one, do they have the means? Pillar number one. Number two, value system, behavior, ethical code, corruption, right? Do they have an ethical code to contain corruption? No. Strategy, is it transformational, right? So you're going to find, it will take me 15 minutes to find that out, because everything that's happening in Africa is not transformational in strategy, because it's coming straight from through the United Nations, from Europe, right? And now China. So the strategy is not there. So the bridge doesn't fall, that doesn't stand. We talk about Africa. Which president in Africa do you think can accept anything that we have and understand it and create a process when they can't even create backbone industries for people to feed themselves? So this process, we need to move away from the idea that the existing government system is going to do anything. And one of the key elements that I think we are forgetting, what people have handed their authority, this idea that the constitution is the ultimate law of the land it's not a true concept. The authority comes from the people. Sovereign authority is the ultimate law, is the ultimate everything, because all the laws come from there. Now we, the people, have got the right, the authority, the sovereign power to say when a system does not work for the people, when a system does not stand for the people, it's not a system of the people anymore. And so we have the right to start afresh, create a new paradigm, and structure it and say, how do we transition from there? And I think this is why we're missing. And I think that this discussion is trillions of dollars. It's so important. This is trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in Africa. And I suggest that, like, Ebube just mentioned, that there needs to be a committee that then engages other areas from this. We don't have a sense of agency. We need a roadmap. Unless we have that, we need structure and institutional framework. Anything that has been suggested here is not going to happen without an institutional framework. And if it's institutional framework, is it the existing one? No, it doesn't. Finally, we have to understand the idea. Somebody says, what you see on the outside of a man is what's on the inside of a man. Everything is psychological, right? Now, there are two leadership styles. Number one, it is called subsistence of existence. So when you look at Africa, the leadership mindset is a subsistence of existence. They think that, they can take care of themselves. If you give each one $10 trillion, the Africans, they don't know what to do with it, because they don't have a conception of the second leadership style, that is excellence of existence, that says, well, our people can really live a great life that is greater than the Chinese, greater than the Germans, the Europeans, the Americans, because we have everything that we need. We have the number one organic creative power in Africa, and we have things to support it. And Africans we have 1,000 or 10,000 Africans for each thing that we want to build in Africa. Everything is ready. But unless we realize that, time is moving. We need a sense of agency. We need to learn to snowball. Once we get together like this, let's create an action plan. Once we get together like this, let's create an action plan. So I want to invite people that are interested here, and I think you should all be interested. Number one, to read the RAP. There's one, if you're really a revolutionary, read the Riot Act. If you're just someone that just needs things done, read the RAP. And I think Ebube, he has a copy. I can send it to him. I've put my number online there, right? Let's get together. Right now, I took 7 months leave. I'm about to go into Africa right now. And George, is it Eric? Eric, I put my number in there. I want to be in touch with you, because key is finance. I want us to talk about that. So if we can, get a team of people that become the genesis of this pinnacle of organization. How do we create it? And ultimate leadership in Africa from the people that are here. I'm about to go back into Africa and make this happen. And a key element of it all, I think Eric mentioned it. We can blame the British, we can blame the Americans, we can blame this. There's a strong part of our wealth, from a reparations point of view, from an industrial technology experience point of view that we need. And the idea that we cannot start Africa without an immediate partnership, a structured, strategic, non-political and non-hegemonic partnership from outside. We can't do Africa without without that. So what do we do, brothers and sisters? Like, I put my phone number there. Ebube is there. We're working together. Let's do something to organize ourselves with a sense of urgency. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
I would love to appreciate our speakers, and thank you so much for joining in. In fact, I would say that this webinar is really wonderful. So I would love to call upon Ms. Emilia to come and specially thank our speakers and our participants. Over to you, Ms. Emilia.
Thank you so much for everyone who joined us this evening. And right now it would be 10 in the morning, maybe in Houston, Texas, my hometown. I was very happy to see we have two guests here that are currently in the United States, Dr. Alexander and our last guest. I'm not sure if they mentioned where they are in the state right now. I would definitely hope that Mr. Michael can have a follow-up of this program. That way we can be able to ask our questions. I had a lot of questions personally because I lived in America pretty much all my life. And I have a lot of questions to ask, especially those of you that are now in America, to see how we can maybe help Africa in terms of technology. And I know they have a lot of grants, and how we can put our heads together and tap into that kind of field. But our time has escaped us. So at this moment, Mr. Michael, if you would give the vote of thanks. Those of you who choose to stay, I know I'm going to stay, even though I have church tomorrow morning. But it's because I have some questions. If those speakers that have time to stay, please feel free to stay and we can ask you some questions. Mr. Mike, why don't you thank our speakers, please?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Emilia Bywaters. We appreciate your contributions and everything. We particularly want to appreciate our speakers for tonight. I mean, you have all gave a brilliant input, and there's this saying that knowing what to do is half of getting what you want. You have already given us the blueprint of what Africa needs to facilitate the development, and we assure you that this is going to be documented for the younger ones to see all your valuable contributions. Definitely, this is not going to be the last we are going to have of this webinar. We are going to continue. We are going to have part 2 because I can see many of our speakers still have some ideas to share, but because of time constraints, we have to suspend it to part 2 of this great webinar. I want to personally appreciate Mr. Ebube, Ambassador Ebube George. We appreciate you for bringing on board wonderful speakers tonight. I particularly want to appreciate Dr. Alessandra Anim Mensah. I want to say Akwaba to you. And I want to appreciate yes. Dr. Annington. Yes, Dr. Annington. Yeah, we appreciate your contribution tonight, and we assure you that this is not going to be the last. We are still going to bring you on board. I love this.
May I say.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and Eric Masaba, my good friend, actually met on a flight from Qingdao to Shanghai. And from the departure till arrival, he blew my minds off with various myriads of his innovations. And I'm so happy that you are part of the team of speakers tonight. We are still coming back to you. We still need more, insights, because from what you reveal on that day, I know that it's just what you just gave tonight is just a tip of the iceberg. I know you still have a lot to share. So I also want to appreciate Eliza W. We saw you, and Elode Kosono, then Eze Okeke Uchena, Joyce Ada, we saw you, and Melovia, and our president, our able president, the president of Nigerian Diaspora Organization, Mr. Opoze G.O. Jeffrey. We appreciate your contribution, and we are so sure that when we call on you the second time, when we are having the party, you will oblige us. Thank you so much. And Patricia Nkwane, our evergreen contributor, we appreciate you for always making it possible for us to have your presence. Unfortunately, you are not able to contribute tonight. Maybe before we round up, you are still going to have one or two things. So don't go away. Then Timmy, we appreciate you. Then Mr. Tundo Mitogu, one of our able moderators. We know you have a question to ask. We are still going to continue, but this is just giving a vote of thanks for those who are, present and they want to go. We are still continuing. So then, Timmy, that's right. We appreciate you. And my brother, I made that mistake last time, but I won't make it this time around. Ken Echo, I left him out last time, and he protested. My good brother from Cameroon is also one of our moderators. We appreciate you, your contribution and everything. And we are still continuing, and from now we are going to have our able host, Constellation is going to hand over is going to take charge of the meeting for the next 1 month. So we believe that you will keep it up with us. You keep following us every weekend. So we are not closing now. We are still continuing. So thank you, Lord. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. And we believe you must have learned one or two things from the different speakers of tonight. Thank you so much. Miss Emilia Bywaters, Daily Nuggets. Back to you.
So I can ask my questions now because okay.
Mr. Cancellation, if you would please stop recording at this point. So let us informally ask some of those
Mr.
questions.
Masaba, I'm still waiting for you. I have some questions, Mr. Masaba, please. A very concrete and critical question.
Recording first. Can you please stop recording?
That man won't allow you to rest today.
Mr. Masaba, please.
You are in for it tonight.
Stop recording.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to reclaim the host. I don't know. They've stopped it, right?
Yeah, go on and claim. Yeah, claim the host and then stop recording.
I think it will be very.
The recording has stopped.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Masaba, please, can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Mr. Masaba, I'm talking. Okay, I'm talking from the economic side now. Focusing on statistics. I have the data, but I will just give a rough estimate just for our discussion. Mr. Masaba, there is one thing to be smart. There's another thing to know how to use smart people. I'm trying to develop some points first before I give you the question. Google Play Store, Mr. Masaba, is making over, I won't exaggerate, billions of dollars, if not monthly in revenue. Facebook does the same thing. Instagram does the same thing, and all those platforms. Now, when you check the statistics carefully, not the fake statistics, there's some real statistics, because all the stuff they publish online, they are all fake, but let's assume they are credible. When you check the statistics online, who are the users? Who actually use mobile phone more? The Africans. Nigeria is the key because we're 200. I'm Nigerian. We're 200 millions. every Nigeria, if not almost all, about 80 million users, they use mobile phones with internet. So my point is, all these informations, sending of messages, all those are money, all those are data translated into MTN, communications, flowing of informations, paying on stuff online. All those are revenues Nigerians, Africans had in funds that is passing through the store, the app stores. Okay, so what I'm saying now is that all these stores, I mean, Google Play Store in particular and iOS in general. So all these things are incomes, okay, into the US economy through all these platforms. So if we do not, I repeat, if we do not monetize these things, how then does the African Internet of Things? Because now I'm sure you are aware, when you go online, you see a lot of YouTubers, all those people putting videos. Every single video they put is a revenue. In short, they are subjecting themselves, but they don't know. They are subjecting themselves into the US economy. Because when you put more videos, people get views, and while getting the views, I myself, I also run campaign on YouTube, and you see, so money is leaving the Africa. I'm focusing on Africa right now. Money is leaving the Africa into the US through all these social media platform that is being controlled by the Westerners. So my questions to you is, don't you think monetizing, don't you think we Africans having our own space, don't you think it's a major factor for our development and growth? That's the question.
Yes,
statistics wise,
of
I have
course
the
it
data I
is.
can send to you. Yeah.
Well, of course it is, but can you tell me why France doesn't dominate global internet?
Yeah.
France had a version of the internet in the 1970s called Minitel. It was in every home. You could actually have a small screen. You could look at people's phone numbers, send them messages. This was 20 odd years before the rise of World Wide Web. It was still internet, but there was no World Wide Web. That was one of the first major commercial browsers. It was ran only in France. When I was at a French university doing an exchange year, we had something called Trombinoscope, which was basically Facebook, but in French. And this was in 1997, and it had been going for about 10 years. So the French had everything ahead of time, and yet they don't dominate the IT space. They call informatique, which is computer science and whatever else, they call everything numerique, so digital's numerique. What this boils down to is just pure power of the United States. They took over after World War II, basically all the intellectual property of all their allies and the defeated nations of Germany and Japan. You could argue in World War I and II were basically German patent heists. All the basis of American economic strength came from patents taken from Britain and Germany after World War II, whether it's a jet engine, whether it's self-sealing fuel tanks, radar, and I've sent a link to something like this. They took even more from Germans. So they will never allow a nation to stand up and have anything different. If you've got something they want, they will literally just take it. As Professor Hannington said, and also Mr. Michael said, what we've got to actually do is firstly get ourselves in order to be able to make more use of things that have come before. We've basically been economically, the globe has been colonized by the American financial system. For the first time in maybe 100 years, we are seeing a real pushback from the Chinese and the Russians and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. You don't have to like China's policies, you don't have to like Russia's policies, but they offer a pathway to self-determination that would never be allowed in the United States. The United States has done that to Britain as well. There's a lot of things, RSA encryption, that was British. They just took it off the British and said, oh, these three Americans, Rivest, Shaw, and Edelman, made it up. It was actually a British GCHQ worker called Clifford Cox, and the guy called Ellis. So if you try and go up against, if you were fighting a war against an enemy which has satellites, which has tactical ballistic missiles, which has a C4 ISR system, which can see you in real time, you can't go and fight them one-on-one directly. You'll just get slaughtered. You've got to have a different strategy, and you have to be patient and figure out a way to build your bases in your country, get people. I think one of the best ways is to start pushing STEM education to 2 and 3 year olds. Make it cool to be a math nerd. One of the best things I've seen in recent years was the Black Panther films. because that made it okay for young black people to be seen as smart and intelligent and liking science. That's going to do more than trying to create any sort of version of Alibaba Cloud or Google. Remember, the Chinese only did that after they had significant economic power. There's no European country that can do that because they're all vassals of the United States hegemonic empire. Africa is a long way from doing that.
Yeah, Mr. Masaba, I live in Doha before. In Qatar and in Dubai, I'm very sure about Qatar, they don't use YouTube. Mr. Masaba, in China here right now, there are about 10,000 Nigerian people who are studying here. About 65% of the people are self-sponsored people. Mr. Masaba, the money coming into China every year for school fees alone is up to the national budget of Nigeria. Mr. Masaba, you can check the statistics of China trade between China and all the countries. Nigeria is over 25 billion. US, the same thing. Mr. Masaba, China is controlling their airspace and they are the #1 now in trade in the world. So what you're saying right now is the past story. What about today's story? Why can't you use China as an example, Mr. Masaba?
Well, China is actually
because that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, they're building infrastructure in Africa, which in 60 or 70 years, there wasn't very much built by the former colonial empires. Admittedly, they were on their knees after World War II, but it didn't really help too many people. What I would say is that if you have a critical mass of Africans in Africa, or people who want to return to Africa after being studied abroad, you're going to find that those things, especially if there's a roadmap and there's a way they can see that they can benefit Africa, you're going to find those things appear. We have the same problems even in regions in the UK. They're most of the regions outside London. London sucks away all the talent. So in the Northwest, in the Midlands, in the North